I'm about to show you a cool pentatonic trick that the pros use that'll make you sound way more musical and make your pentatonic sound a whole lot cooler. It's going to be a great way to combine playing full chords and triads along with the pentatonic scales in a way that just makes them sound almost like a record. But as always, be sure to stick around to the very end of the lesson because there's a free gift coming at you for you and your guitar. You're both going to love it. All right, so let's get into this cool pentatonic trick I'm talking about. Now, I mentioned it's going to involve chords and triads. So essentially what I'm going to show you is a simple chord change in a single key, how you can move it in multiple spaces on the fretboard, essentially covering most of it, and how you can combine pentatonics, both major and minor, just to make it sound more like a song and less noodly, right? So we're gonna start in the key of E, and we're just gonna involve two chords here. We're gonna involve the E chord and the A chord. So in the key of E, right, the E chord would be the 1 chord, and the A chord would be the 4 chord. So all you got to know about that is just we have a 1 to 4 change happening here, right? And it's going to occur in multiple places on the neck. But starting in the open position, we got our full E chord, right? So if you don't already know it, open low E, 2nd fret on A, 2nd fret on D, 1st fret on G, open B, and high E, right? That's our 1 chord, and then we have our A chord, which I like to play it like this, especially in this context. You know, you'll see a lot of people play an A chord like this, which is absolutely fine too, but this is just a nice easy way to do it so you can bar your first finger across the D, G, and B strings on the 2nd fret and play the open A string. And that gives you a full A chord, right? The 4 chord in the key of E. So you have your 1 and your 4, right? So moving this up the neck, we're going to go to a new position. This is where we start using triads. We have the 1 chord here, E, right here, and then the 4 chord right here. So starting with E, with your 3rd finger, you're gonna play the 6th fret of the D string. 1st finger is on the 4th fret of G, and our 2nd finger is on the 5th fret of B. So that's an E major triad. Technically, an E major triad in the 1st inversion. You don't have to really know what that title even means right now, but just know that this qualifies as an E chord, just like this. It just is using the 3 basic components, the 3 notes necessary to make up an E chord, an E major chord. And for the A chord, the A major chord, it's gonna be this little staircase triad I like to call, right? Starting with our 3rd finger on the 7th fret of the D string, 2nd finger on the 6th fret of G, 1st finger is on the 5th fret of B. And that's the A chord, right? And that's our root, 3rd, 5th. So this qualifies, gives us the necessary components to make up an A chord. So we have an E chord here and an A chord here. So right now we've got those two and these two. So you can hear the similarities. They're similar in the fact that we are still playing E chords and A chords, but there's little differences to them that give them this nice sort of like chordal harmony thing going where we can hear certain notes in the chords really stick out when we're playing them in these different registers. But we're gonna keep going. We got one more. Right over here, we're gonna play an E triad. So we can take our 1st finger, just like with the A chord, right? We're gonna bar it across the D, G, and B strings on the 9th fret here. And that's actually an E major triad in the 2nd inversion, if you wanna get technical with it, right? And then we're going to play an A triad, which is the same shape right here that we did for E, only brought up here to accommodate A. So 3rd finger is gonna be on the 11th fret of the D string, 1st finger is on 9th fret of G, 2nd finger is on 10th fret of B. And that's our A major triad in the 1st inversion, okay? So we have essentially 3 groups of those 2 chords, E and A, the 1 and the 4. We got E here, A here, E here, A here, E here, A here. So now that we've laid the foundation as far as what chords we're gonna be using, let's talk about this cool pentatonic trick. Now, this is just a way to make use of not only chord play, but also throwing in some cool licks, some pentatonic based licks. And what's going to make it sound like a record, like I mentioned earlier, is just this really nice sort of blend of major and minor pentatonics combined with these chord changes. So it's not like you're just sitting there noodling on a single scale, you're actually playing something a lot more musical. So what we're going to do is we're going to take little fragments of the major and minor pentatonic scales in each of these three neighborhoods that we just found those triads and chords in, right? So starting with the open position here, we got our E and our A. We're going to keep it simple. Rather than just focusing on the entire, let's say, E minor pentatonic and E major pentatonic, full scale pattern that covers all 6 strings, we don't really need that right now. We're going to start real simple. We're going to take little fragments of them. Starting with these 4 notes in the E minor pentatonic. Open D, 2nd fret, open G, 2nd fret. Just those 4 notes for right now. And then for the major pentatonic, we're going to do 2 and 4 on the A and D string. So here's our minor pentatonic, and here's our major pentatonic. You can already kind of hear the musical implications happening, right? So if, let's say, I were to stay in this position, and here's where I'm going to actually show you this pentatonic trick in action. If I'm just going to start by just vamping those 2 chords and then throwing in simple licks using those pentatonic boxes right there, right? It would sound something like this. So with something like that, it's like I just kind of established a rhythm, right? With the 2 chords, like some, simple. And then in between, I was throwing in those little pentatonics, right? And the cool, varying tonalities between major and minor pentatonic, they just seem to work, especially when you're just narrowing it down to just a handful of notes. So you can have this this rhythm going where it's just kind of like combining rhythm and lead guitar at the same time. You got this pocket that you're sticking to that you establish with those 2 chords. And then you got those small pentatonic boxes that are just giving you enough to just throw in some tasty musicality in between those chords. And check this out. We got 2 additional neighborhoods, right, to explore this cool pentatonic trick, right? Which essentially boils down to just using the pentatonic in tandem with chords and triads. I mean, that's what makes it sound really musical, especially when you're playing solo, right? By yourself, solo a mono, no backing track, no band or nothing. You're in charge of implying what kind of tonalities, what kind of chords, whatever it is that you're trying to establish to your own ears or to the ears of your listeners. You're in charge of that, right? So you get the chance to set the stage with a trick like this. Oh, and hey, real quick, if you're getting value out of this lesson, do me a favor, hit that like button and consider subscribing to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. It really helps us out and it lets us know that you want to see more lessons just like this one. And believe me, we got a whole lot more coming your way. We'd be more than happy to give that to you. So thanks in advance, and let's get right back to it. So moving on here to this middle register, when we did these 2 chords here, E and A, 1 and 4, here are the pentatonic boxes we're going to stick to. Starting with major pentatonic, we're going to be on the 4th and 6th frets of the G string, and then 5th and 7th on B. So those 4 notes, right? That's E major pentatonic. And then for E minor pentatonic, we're going to continue on kind of where the major pentatonic little box left off, where we're going to play 5th fret on the B string, then 8th fret, and then we're going to play 5th fret, 7th fret on the high E string. So these 4 notes. And you can get really cool sounds when you're going like, there's just a nice contrast between major and minor, and it's not too jarring, right? We're just nicely implying the major, and then we're bringing in the minor for a little bit of extra stank, So if we were to do this with some chord play, let's say we're sticking to a similar rhythm like I did with the open chords, we can go like, You can do stuff like that. And again, you know, this is just one example. There's so many ways that you can approach this. You can go really slow on arpeggio, you know. You know, there's all kinds of ways you can approach it. Whatever tempo you like, whatever feels right to you. And if this is something that's, you know, you're just gonna take a little bit to get under your fingers as you're practicing it, just start slow. Go with a really slow tempo, and then or even just do like what B.B. King does, where he'll just do like little chord stabs. He'll just go. Where you just hit the chord, you establish the, you know, like the tonality, play a little lick, hit another chord. So it's a little more free form. You can do that too. It doesn't have to be to a rhythm, but you want to work it up to the point where you can just like pick any rhythm you want and apply this, right? So that's with that neighborhood. And then we got this last one right here with these two chords, E and A in this position. So here are the pentatonic major and minor boxes we're going to be looking at. For major, we're going to do 9 to 11 on the A and D strings. Right? Fits perfectly with that triad there. And then for the minor pentatonic, we're gonna go 9 to 12 on the D and G strings. So just with those two, and then we play that 4, you know? You can get kind of Hendrixy here, especially with that major pentatonic box. You can kind of go where if you're barring that triad and then hammering on from that 9 to 11 on the D string, same thing on the A string. Very Hendrixy, right? And now that we've covered these three neighborhoods, we don't have to just isolate them, right? We can combine all three to just have this revolving door of musical ideas where we can start here, make our way here, then up here, and then work our way down, and it would sound something like this. I had to come to an abrupt stop there because otherwise I would have just kept going. So, but hopefully that establishes what I'm talking about. And that was purely improvised, right? I just used those guideposts with those pentatonics, right? And where those chords were, just changing between a 1 and a 4. It's a beautiful thing. The 1 and the 4, as far as that chordal, relationship, is amazing. It's something you hear in so many great songs. There's so many songs that are just only 1 and 4, not even throwing in a 5, Sometimes you'll have songs that don't even need the 5 chord because the 1 and 4 are just working so well. So this makes for the perfect, simple kind of starting point. You don't have to think anywhere beyond just the relationship of those 2 chords. Throw in those simple little licks, and they don't have to utilize even all of the notes within the little pentatonic boxes. You can just do something really simple that uses even less notes, like you can really control how much or how little you actually approach this. And so I recommend starting real simple, like something that's so simple that it's very achievable. It's something that in a very short time, you get the hang of it. And you're like, this is cool. I'm kind of seeing, where this is going, and it's starting to let the creative juices start really flowing, and you'll start coming up with new ideas that you can even expand upon with the additional notes that you have. And here's the thing. You've heard me say this a million times if you've seen my lessons. You don't need a whole lot of notes to say something honest, something authentic, and something musical. So just start simple. If it feels right, it's going to come through in your delivery, no matter what level you're at. Start from a place that's comfortable and just work your way up from there gradually. And so there it is, a cool pentatonic trick that's going to really focus your efforts on sounding musical and not noodly, and something that can really qualify as something you'd hear on a record that you like to listen to. Just remember, start slow and simple and have fun with it. At the end of the day, that's the most important thing. And speaking of fun, you remember that free gift? Well, now's as good a time as any to give it to you. And here it is. This right here is a game-changing guide on how to instantly solo in any key. Imagine being able to find every key on your fretboard in record time and then learning how to solo in any key you want, whether it's major or minor. Well, that's what you're getting with this free lesson, and it is yours 100% free. So be sure to click here to claim your copy or check the link in the description box. These days as a guitar player, I like to put my efforts more into sounding like something I would like to listen to, rather than just focusing on technique by itself. And sometimes all it takes are little tricks to really steer us in that direction.